Folks, today we add to our list of wonderful, great callers from the world of football. We've had Dwayne Russell on, Jason Bennett, Al Nicholson, Adam Papalia, Corbin Middlemass, but this week we're lucky enough to welcome a mate who is leading the next generation of callers. You can hear her calling for Triple M, Fox Footy this W season, or maybe more recently featuring on the Sunday Footy Show. Let's meet our new mate, Jess Webster.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
The absolute pleasure. It's a miserable day in Melbourne, so thank you for coming.
Yes.
We've really turned.
And I always complain just that little bit more being from Queensland when I get days like this. I just don't like it.
Do you think it rains the same way in Queensland as it rains here?
No, not at all.
Because it's like heavier in Queensland, yeah?
Yeah, and it doesn't last as long. So if it rains here, it might rain for 2 or 3 days straight. Like, what's that about? I don't understand it.
Oh, because I think it rains for 10 minutes and then stops, or it spits for a long time. But then when it rains in Queensland, it rains.
Yeah, which is nice, I think, because it's, because when you think about the sounds and it kind of puts you to sleep a little bit But
then it's gone.
Yeah, this wasn't the topic I thought we were going to talk about to kick off.
Start on weather, but no.
I did open that door, didn't I?
You've worked, well, let's talk about your career, firstly, but you were born in Melbourne, but you're raised in Queensland.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
How is it being a footy person in Queensland?
Well, I mean, I felt like the odd one out, and yet footy and sport to me was just second nature. Obviously, being born into a big footy family, so I was born out in Gippsland, and been a part of footy and sport for 120 odd years and 5 generations. It goes back a pretty fair way. So I was born into it. Yeah. How many?
You were saying your parents played footy, or your dad played footy?
Yeah, well, multiple generations. So it depends how far back you want to go, really.
Yeah.
But great-great-grandfather played in Pakenham's first ever premiership in 1909, and that was kind of the first one. And then the next generation then moved to, after World War I, moved to Nanagoon. So my great-grandfather was a very talented footballer and cricketer, and then my grandfather was a legend at Nanagoon and has the senior best and fairest named after him. And my dad was also a pretty handy footballer at Nanagoon as well. And then on my mum's side, my grandfather played for Essendon as well in the 1950s. A lot of sports in my family.
This is part of you. It's part of your DNA, footy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I was born into it. Always was interested in sport. Always wanted to be a commentator since I was a little girl. So I just always knew my life was going to be revolving around sport and footy. I wouldn't have it any other way. You
wanted to be a commentator since you were a little girl.
Yeah, definitely.
What about it drew you to it? What did you like about it?
Oh, I think I had as you were saying before, I'm Victorian born but grew up in Brisbane, and so football was just always around us, whether we were going locally and watching my brothers play or watching it on TV. And so I just think being a little girl, growing up in the 1990s, which is a great era of Aussie rules when it obviously became national, and the voices of my childhood were Bruce McAvaney and Dennis Cometti and Sandy Roberts, Tim Lane, Stephen Quartermain, Hutto, and I just thought they had the best job in the world. And this, MCG was kind of like this faraway fantasy place where dreams came true. And so I just, I think because we watched a lot of footy growing up, I just thought that's where I want to be and that's what I'm going to do.
That's who out of those, you growing up, do you have a favourite caller from that period, from the 90s?
Oh, I mean, they're all so amazing, aren't they? But
yeah.
I suppose if you had to pick one, it's interesting. I always loved Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
I was also a really big fan of Clinton Gribus. I loved his work, and I just think, if he was still with us, I think he'd be absolutely dominating. And I remember early days, the early Fox Footy channel, my favourite show was White Line Fever.
Hell yeah.
I loved it. So never missed an episode, always sat on the couch with Dad, watching shows like that and watching the footy. And I guess that's where the passion for broadcasting really began. You
could feel when we lost Clinton Gribus in the footy world, you could feel it. And to this point, he's still a missing jigsaw piece in that, there's Jared Waitley now who brings that kind of professionalism, and Hutto has that same energy. But he really was so professional in the way he went about it. But then he was next to Rex Hunt for a lot of his calls, where he was this kind of, he had a really unique take on it.
Yeah. That 2005 final, Nick Davis in the final quarter, Sydney against Geelong. If you listen to a 3AW call of that, it was some of the greatest commentary I think you'll ever hear. So,
yeah.
you're right. There was something about Clinton Gribus, not only was he technically a great caller, but to me, he had that amazing balance of, you're right, professionalism, but also with passion and energy. It was so infectious, and you couldn't help but love footy as much as he did when you listened to him commentate.
And then White Line Fever also was like a preemptor to like 360 and all the things we had in the second, you know.
Yeah.
And they had
Tiffany Cherry as well was on that show, and she was one of my early idols. I thought she had the best job in the world. So there were some of the early memories of my childhood.
You used to have phone-ins on that show.
Yeah.
People used to call in to Telly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, the article you did with Marnie a few years ago at The Age, where you talk about growing up and looking at Bruce McAvaney and Dennis Committee as being people who you looked up to, but you didn't have no one in the space who was a woman until Kelli Underwood came along. You said that was obviously a huge moment, just seeing someone on TV who was like you, and you thought if she can do it, you can do it. What does Kelli mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's so monumental, and people like Kelli, who are a genuine trailblazer, it's kind of hard to describe the impact that she has. And kind of the best way that I can explain it is that because I've wanted to be a play-by-play caller since I was little. And, you know, you sort of kind of get to your teen years. And obviously when you're really young and you have that dream, you don't really know what it means. You don't really know how to get there. You also don't understand context. You don't understand what the industry is like. You don't understand the complexities around your gender and how difficult it's going to be, right? Yeah. Then you get to your teen years and I start to think, no one's ever really done it before. How do I do this? Is it even possible? Am I going to have to be the first? And you start to kind of, you know, maybe those seeds of doubt start to creep in. And I remember so vividly when Kelli commentated her first game. I was a very broke uni student and I was watching the game on a TV that was a cube that both shows how old I am and also how poor I was at the time being a broke uni student. And it was so monumental. I felt like I was watching something in the future in a way.
Really?
Because I was just in awe, hearing her and seeing a woman do that. And it changed me because in that moment I thought, oh my God, it's possible. And that changed everything because it meant for the next 15 years or however long it's been now, every time I've had a bad day in this industry or any time I've ever doubted myself, I've gone back to those three words. It is possible. And so she, to me, is living proof that my dreams can come true. And I don't think there's anything more powerful than that.
That's beautifully said. It's so true as well. Like in what I do, often you see different performers, their audience often looks like them. There's if the example that you set by doing something really forges a pathway, and it's really awesome to hear that. And it's funny to say you've been doing this for 15 years now. It's hearing you on Triple M and hearing you on Fox and stuff. It does feel like maybe it feels like an overnight success to a lot of people, but you've been doing this for so long. You've been doing this everywhere. How did you start?
It's a very good question because I think that there is no one pathway to do this. You've just got to try and figure it out, I guess, as you go along. But for me, again, when I thought, okay, well, the path for me is I'm going to go and study journalism. So I left home at 17 and started doing my degree.
Where did you go?
I moved from Brisbane to Melbourne to start my degree. Did a couple of years down here in Melbourne, then moved back home to finish off my degree. So did my final year at University of Queensland. And then the next year I was in Darwin, and that's when I got my start at the NT News and on ABC TV as a boundary writer. Best time of my life.
Tell us about NT News and what's it like covering Darwin in the NT
News.
It's
wild. I mean, we've all heard the stories about the stories.
Yes.
But it was a real time. Obviously, I worked in the sports department, and oh gosh, I wrote stories and covered everything from a world stick fighting champion that came from Darwin.
World stick fighting champion.
Not even joking. I was the local go-kart reporter.
Go-kart?
Yeah, there's a massive motorsport contingent up in Darwin. It's huge up there.
Yeah. As
well as doing everything from footy and hockey and all sorts of bits and pieces.
I have two questions. Firstly, what is a stick champion? Like someone with a big stick?
It is exactly what it sounds like. You hold two sticks and you fight with someone with two sticks.
Yeah, where you find the stick?
Well, it's kind of like it's not a real stick. It's a baton type.
Oh, right.
Instrument, if you like.
And you just whack people with it?
Yeah.
Why is that not in Melbourne?
And the world champion came from Darwin. So there you go. We did
Wow.
a photo shoot and everything. It was great.
I want to make this show the stick with Broden Kelly. And then
That encapsulates, I think, NT News. But I mean, imagine, working in a newsroom. And by the way, this was my first experience working in a newsroom. So I had nothing to compare it to. I just thought, all newsrooms are like this. But, you knew you were going to get a great front page the next day by how much laughter was at the table in the center of the newsroom when they were having their editorial meetings.
Yeah.
But yeah, God, so many classic memories of, I remember I was just sitting there typing at my desk one day and a general news journo from across the room leapt out of their chair, put the phone down and said, guys, I need a photographer. We've got to go. Someone's got a croc in their backyard. And it was like, kind of like all sirens going, everyone jump in the car. We need to go, take a photo and interview this civilian with a crocodile in their backyard. So, and because that's what sold the newspapers up there.
Hell yeah.
It was three things. It was crocodiles, UFOs, and footy.
Hell yeah.
Were the three things that sold that.
I want to ask about Darwin footy very quickly. And then when is the wet season? Can I get a definitive on when the footy is played?
October to March.
Okay. And so the wet season would be till September then? Is that it?
Yeah, the build-up starts, sort of around September, October to December. And then the rain starts to come from January through to March.
Hell yeah. So when did you start calling? When was your first call? Do you remember?
It was early days in Darwin. I started doing when NT Thunder played in the NEFL and they did some live stream games back then. And so again, going back to the point about there is no pathway.
Yeah.
Back in those days, I sound so old, but live streaming was in its infancy. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity outside elite sport to actually practice your craft. Mm-hmm. Live streaming was in its infancy. So it was a really great time as well for me to kind of get involved. So I jumped on, I started doing expert commentary really weirdly because I guess I just knew the players and knew the competition, and then kind of moved into play-by-play after that and did a couple of, local NTFL games. But it really started to pick up when I moved back to Brisbane. And then other than that, I did some boundary work for ABC TV. So that was my first ever gig in the industry.
Yeah.
Somehow landed an opportunity doing that. It was a wild time. Some great footage too in the archives of me as a 20-year-old rookie. It was a great place to start your career. Yeah.
Do you need to find your voice as a commentator and the style, or did you have a natural idea of how you wanted to be a caller? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And it is one of the really key things you need to learn when you're first starting out is who you are and what your style is, because the worst thing you can do is try and be somebody else and try and, mold your game. Well, you can take inspiration, of course, from callers, but you can't try and copy them and be somebody that you aren't. So, that takes time, it takes experience, it also takes growing up a little bit because you have to know who you are before you know who you are as a caller.
Hunch.
So that takes time. And I think, I'm probably, maybe still figuring it out along the way.
Do you have moments in your career or stories where you went, oh, I nailed that, or I found something there along the path?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a good feeling when I think you go, yeah, you know what, I did that goal justice. And you thought, yeah, no, I did call that really well. I will say I'm highly critical of myself, so I wouldn't say I have those moments all too often where I feel like I really nailed it. But because, it's also a craft and a skill that, do you ever actually perfect it? Is there ever actually a thing called the perfect call?
It's a strange thing I've heard a lot from a lot of the callers we've spoken to where they say, my job is to not be noticed.
Correct. Yep.
Which is strange, right? Because I think it's an art form, but the art form is kind of to be part of the game, or you are obviously being noticed, but it's a strange thought to think that you'd want to be in the shadows of it or something like that. So how do you approach that? How do you approach being not noticed, but also doing a good job? How does that work?
Yeah, well, it definitely is a fine balance. I think, I like to see it as I am connecting with the viewer through the TV or through the radio. Mm-hmm. So the way that you connect with them, I think, is through that level of emotion and passion. So you have to obviously enjoy what you're doing to get them to sort of come along the journey and the ride with you. I think naturally when you're trying to connect with someone in any way, it can't really be all about you, right? So imagine you have a conversation with someone and you're only talking about yourself. You're not really going to connect with the other person, are you? So I think I just try and think of it like that way, that I'm trying to enhance their experience and make their viewing or their listening experience even better. And so, yeah, I don't know if that kind of answers your question, but you have to kind of take your mindset away from you being kind of a perfect version of you or trying too hard or,
In a flow state?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You absolutely have to get into flow state, which is one of the reasons why I love what I do so much.
Yeah.
Because when I get into that flow state, it's euphoric and it's the best feeling in the world, and in my opinion. But yeah, you need an element of being able to let go and being your true self, and that's how you connect with people. And hopefully that's what makes their experience watching the footy a little bit better.
You talk about footy being part of your family, and now it's obviously a job you have, but also, do you still love footy?
Oh, absolutely. I think, ebbs and flows. And what I've learned my time on earth is that I think most of us go through some period at some stage during our lives whether that's professionally or personally, where we lose our love for the game.
Yes.
I never thought that would happen to me until COVID hit.
That was hard.
And I went through a tough time where I lost all my work and I lost my job at the AFL. I didn't commentate for a year. I got stuck here in Melbourne in lockdowns when the season moved home to Brisbane. So 2020 was rough, and it was the first time in my life where I just couldn't watch footy. I just couldn't turn on the TV because it was really hard. But, that was a really key learning experience as well. And I think I've learned to protect my love of the game and see it as separate to the work that I do. So I separate my love from the game from the industry. So the industry itself can be quite tough and rough at times. So I've learned to separate the two and protect my love for the game.
Have you seen it change and evolve the way football's covered in the time you've been covering it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. When I think back when I first got the job at the NT News, they'd never had a full-time female football reporter. And so, you go from growing up in a world where the world says you don't belong to now living in a world where there are so many of us. And not only do I think, we feel like we belong more and more, and we still have a lot of work to do in this space, believe me. But also we have our own little community, I think, of women in the football industry as well, to support each other on the way through.
Tell me about that community. What's that like?
I love it because I just love, meeting like-minded people. Again, I think back to when I was going through university, and back then, I'm going to sound old again, but back then things like sports media degrees didn't exist. So everyone had to do journalism. So you were, in a degree in a university where you were mixing with, people who wanted to be like fashion journos or,
really?
Like any kind of journo, because there was no, if I had a choice, I would absolutely just go into a sports media degree. But I remember being in university and not knowing any female who wanted to be a sports journalist. So you have experiences like that in the world where you do feel really alone and isolated. And now I just love being able to go to the footy and chat to my girls and, and it's just so normal, and that's what I love about it.
That's awesome. I think it's warm. It really, when you listen back to calls from the early 2010s now or whatever, and it's all guys, it feels wrong to me. It feels like just so just base and vanilla a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's a really welcome thing, and I love it.
Well, can I turn the table slightly on you?
Yes.
And ask a question?
Yes.
Well, how does it feel like as a male sports fan? How does it feel for you when you turn on the TV or turn on the radio and you hear female voices?
It's genuinely like, well, I'm trying to find the right analogy for it, but it's like you've been eating the same shit food for like your whole life, and then you're like, holy shit, there's other different things out there. There's nuance, there's change, there's a point of difference.
Yeah.
Like we talked about it before, but like when I started to do the show and hearing Marnie's takes, whether on social media or in the Age at the time, or hearing Kate or hearing yourself on Triple M, it just on one level it's nice to hear, and because you're going, young girls who are going to be listening to this and thinking there's a pathway, as you talked about before. But then at the other end, it's like, this is cool. Like on a cool level, it's a vibe, as opposed to just hearing the same boys that I've been hearing my whole life. It's just nice. Do you feel that?
Oh, absolutely. I think Triple M has been so fun, and I've never had an experience so far where I felt like I was any different. It's not, and it's also not, walking into a commentary box and thinking you have to be one of the boys and act like one of the boys and talk like one of the boys. You can just be yourself, and everyone's having a great time. Footy's fun. Footy's entertainment. We're all there because we love the sport. And so, Triple M to me has been a great experience. And it's not just me. Even before I joined Triple M, I would speak to, people like Kate and say, hey, what's your experience? And, has only ever said great things. So I love it. Super welcoming and supportive. And you're just another commentator. It's great.
Do you mind if we talk about your brother?
Yes, sure. I have to be careful because... Every time so far I've spoken about Daniel in the media, I've accidentally given him a little clip. So
okay, great.
He's so close to disowning me. No. And I have to be on my best behaviour right now.
Daniel is a AFLW coach for Hawthorn and has overseen their rise. They're a really cool team. Hawthorn as a club have a lot of personality. Are you proud of your brother?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, definitely. So I'm very happy that he's here in Melbourne with me now and obviously moved down when he got the job. But he's worked really hard to get to where he is, and we're all just so thrilled that he finally got his opportunity to take the helm of an AFLW side, and he's thriving. He loves it. He's got a really great group to work with, and that's super exciting.
What's the 20 worst things about him? No.
I could give you 35.
Yeah, fair enough. Have you ever had to commentate one of his games?
Yes.
How did you find that?
I've done a couple where I was on the boundary and interviewed him.
Yeah.
So that was fun for the family to tune in and see that. And I've commentated a couple. One for Fox last year. Hawthorn Collingwood. I mean, I don't think about it kind of any differently.
Yeah.
Because when you're concentrating on doing your job, you're not thinking about anything else. So, I wouldn't say it sort of affects me too much. It's more just something you kind of might laugh about afterwards, or that sort of thing.
Does it have a brother who's in that world in footy in that capacity? Has that changed the way you approach it in any way?
I don't think it changes things. I think it's a unique experience, and one that I'm really grateful for because. I've said this to him actually directly, that as a woman, it makes me really proud to have a brother who loves women's sport and women's footy and is invested in it. And so, I'm really proud of that part of him and his personality. So it's cool, I think, to be on this journey with him. And it started long before AFLW when I was back commentating NEFL. He was coaching in that competition. And then even further back when women's footy first started in Brisbane and our local footy club created its first women's footy side. My dad was inaugural coach, and Daniel would come down and be one of his assistants, going back to his early 20s. So, I'm also, fortunate that within my own family I've had men. So I have 3 older brothers. They've only just seen footy as footy.
Yeah.
And I think, it's something that I'm thinking more and more about as I get older, how kind of lucky and important and impactful growing up in that environment was to have, brothers and a father who, have been involved in women's footy and helped it grow at a local level and now obviously at the elite level. So I'm really proud of them.
I foresee a bad day in your future. I can see it literally it's a matter of time where it's going to be you calling for Fox.
Yeah.
And or you're calling the grand final and it's Hawthorn versus Brisbane in the grand final. I can see it happening.
Oh, I commentated the prelim.
Yeah,
for,
right.
ABC. No, the qualifying final.
And how was that?
Oh, it was, again, once you're actually in it and you're commentating, you don't kind of think about it. It's more so kind of before it, where you're like, what do I want to see happening? And then afterwards you kind of have these emotions. Yeah, I wouldn't say I was in a glass cage of emotion. I wouldn't go that far. And
depends on the stadium and the infrastructure they have, whether they have a glass case to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, again, I say to Daniel, well, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Hell yeah. And which is, fairly, it is Brisbane in the W, isn't it? What's your goal long term? Like, where do you want to be? You've obviously, like, carved out a really great pathway for yourself and you're kicking goals everywhere. Sorry for a lack of better analogy. But where do you want to be in 10 years? What's the goal?
Oh, good question. Well, one of my other brothers says, as we were alluding to before, about kind of having been in the game, so to speak, for a long time now, and yet kind of, maybe being at times seen as an overnight success. My brother always says to me, I think you're going to be a 20-year overnight success. And I'm like, 20 years? Can I do it in 10?
Yeah.
Why does it have to take 20 years? But yeah, I think, do you know what? If you asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have had a different answer.
Yeah.
So I'm more kind of more chill, I think, these days, and not so caught up in timelines and wanting to achieve things by a certain age or a certain time. But yeah, the ultimate dream for me is I would love to commentate, men's AFL on television. I think that's always been a big goal of mine, and hopefully I get there one day.
Oh, it's happening.
I'm super grateful. I mean, honestly, while that's a dream and something that I will continue to fight for every day, I really am so grateful that it is my life to commentate footy and commentate sport. Obviously, I do footy in the winter, basketball and tennis in the summer as well, and a bit of cricket here and there. So I'm just so stoked that this is my life. I have those moments all the time where I think I'm doing it. I'm living my dream, and my 10-year-old self, I think, would be beside herself. She would think I'm pretty cool.
Well, you are cool.
Yeah, she would think I'm a bit of a nerd, but she would still think I have a cool job.
But the coolest people are nerds. I've always said that. That's why I'm cool. Sometimes it's good to take your measurement of success off literal jobs, isn't it? To be able to just say, like, moving in the right pathway and being happy in what you're doing is the right way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's about living authentically, living your purpose, because I've had to ask myself over the years, particularly, so for instance, when COVID hit and I lost everything, that was hard for me because I think over the years and during my 20s, I was placing too much of my identity in my career, right? So you had to really unpack that because it was affecting me so much. And so what I just try and focus on, I tell myself all the time, if you were just commentating local footy, would you still love it? And the answer is absolutely yes.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. It is. And so that's just what I focus on. That's how I don't get caught up in where I am. Am I behind in my career? Whatever, thinking other people are doing better than me, all those sorts of things. It just comes down to, do you love what you do? And the answer is absolutely yes.
Sick.
Wouldn't want to do anything else.
That's awesome. If people haven't heard you call before, where can they hear you call?
You can hear me on Triple M, on the M's.
They rock football.
They do rock football. That's great fun. So you can catch me there during the men's footy season. AFLW on Fox Footy as well later in the year. That's very exciting. Jess, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you soon. Bounce that pill.
This is a Grouse House podcast.